Chair and Vice Chair of Parliament Council.
Please be seated. Welcome everybody to the September forecast, Councillor and public and everybody else. Okay, let's start with apology item 1. Do we have any apologies?
Yes, Councillor John Stratton, Councillor Karen Clever and Councillor Tony Edwards.
Thank you.
Councillor Joe Charles and David Cotter.
Okay, thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Do we have any? No, fine. Okay, item 3 minutes on pages 4 and 7 of the July 12th meeting. Do we agree those minutes?
Agreed.
Excellent, we're doing well. Right, okay, thank you. Now, communication from Chair. Right, I'd like to start off with the Hertfordshire and Essex Community Farm that I attended at Foldcroft. Now, considering the hot weather we had this summer from April, it was a green paradise. It was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I don't know how they grew the corn on the cob, the vegetables, the plants. It was absolutely fantastic. And a lot of people down there wandering around, a lot of children, a few dogs, but it was absolutely excellent. The work they've done, because they go there twice a day to water, and they put the orchard in by the side of the river, and I was so proud of the work they've done. They've worked really hard, considering what we've had this summer. I think they did an absolutely wonderful job, and anyone who hasn't been down there should really go and see it, because it is one of the jewels of the agricultural side of our town, and we should really welcome it and support it. Right, the next one was the carnival. Now, that was the complete opposite weather. We had it on the Saturday, the sun, we had it on the Monday. And I kept saying to everybody, it's not going to rain on Sunday. No, it's not going to rain. Well, about 11:30 in the morning, it started to rain. Now, we had a lot of floats, we had loads of floats, we had a lot of walkers, dancers, etc. And bless their hearts, they did a fantastic job. And bless the public, because they were around Bush Fair with the dogs and the kids, sheltering under trees and in bus stops on Howard Way. And they really did us proud. And I didn't think we'd get that much in the buckets, but we got £370, which quite surprised me. So I was really proud of it, and we had some very nice compliments via the council website about the fact that it had been a major success. I mean, I felt very sorry for hip hop who were dancing behind us on the bus, because they were in the denim jackets and they must have got drowned. But we didn't, because we had the cargoes there, police and bodies, and we had umbrellas that the bus driver provided for us. So we were okay. So that was, and the mayors and chairs thought it was wonderful, and the Pearly Kings and Queens thought it was fantastic. So we did have a successful day. Then I went to the Derwent Centre at the beginning of September, and I was absolutely flabbergasted by the building outside. I cut the ribbon with others around me. The building outside, being a round white building with red under the windows, was a very welcoming, very well done architectural building. You felt as if you were going into somewhere that was going to be secure, that you could work with the staff and the families that went in there to see their relations with the children. It was very calming. It was lots of pictures around the walls. The rooms that the families go in were like front rooms. They had settees, they had chairs. It was a fancy. They had a kitchen where they cooked meals for each other. When you went in the communal room, you had table tennis and stuff like that. You had TV that they could put DVDs on. A communal area. They did gardening. It was the sort of place that you had hope that they were going to get better. They were going to be supported by a wonderful staff. It's not been easy with the build, because they had to work around it. But I'm so proud of that building and the people that work there and the patients that are in there, because it's a very welcoming place and they will, as I say, recover in a very positive way. At golf day, no wind, lots of sun, perfect for golf. So we had 12 teams, and they're going to book in for next year, so you've got 12 teams immediately. That's a good start. We raised 1,400 from that day, which is wonderful. And we had 2 public health teams and HTS, and everybody had a wonderful time. And it was a very well, and Lisa did a fantastic job for me on, organising and everything else. So that was a very worthwhile day. That's all I've got to say actually under the chair's items, but they were really good. And I've got quite a variety of stuff that I was going through. Okie dokie. Right, item 5 is petitions from the public. The Safe Harbour Town Park paddling pool. Mr. Martin Deere, are you here? Okay, so if you come up to the podium and you've got 3 minutes. Thank you.
Right, it was recently announced. So when I saw the council's Facebook post about the splash parks being built, the way it was being spun as an improvement to the town made me angry, and I wondered if other residents felt the same. I started the petition and shared it on a few of the local social media pages as a way of finding this out. The reaction to it's been overwhelming, with 1,549 people adding their signatures. I knew there was a lot of love in the town for our paddling pools, but to read some of the comments along with the signatures has been truly marvellous. Our paddling pools are an integral part of the town's fabric and history. Pretty much everyone who has ever lived here has used one or more at some point, and they serve as one of the last remaining levellers in the town. They are used by almost everyone, regardless of income level, age, gender, race or anything else. The splash parks would be aimed at under 12s. There's already very little, if anything, left to do in Harlow for young people between the ages of 12 and 18, especially things that are free at the point of use. If all of the pools are replaced with splash parks, this would indeed give this important age group even less to do. I personally feel that a mixture of both pools and splash parks could be a great asset, but to lose all 5 of our paddling pools to have 6 splash parks in total would be detrimental to Harlow as a whole. From the way that Harlow Council presented the plan, they neither have the appetite nor the budget to keep all 5 pools open. I name the town park one not only for the reasons outlined in the main petition body, but also because its proximity to Pets Corner means it's the closest of any of them to a public toilet. The comments on the petition show that a lot of residents would like to see more than just the town park pool saved, with Norman Booth and Summers mentioned several times. Although my petition names just the one pool, it appears there is a strength of feeling to see more, if not all of them saved. It is hoped that this petition will also raise a discussion of doing this. The paddling pools aren't just used in the summer when they're filled with water, and when drained they're used year-round by Harlow's wheeled sports communities such as skateboards, BMX bikes, roller skates and scooters. There is a purpose-built skate park within the town, but this is not necessarily ideal for younger children or beginners, as it has deep holes and it can get very busy. The drain paddling pools have long been used as an unofficial learning ground, where people who don't have the confidence or ability to use the main park can practice on smaller banks. This keeps these users, especially the younger ones, safely within park areas, away from the roads and out of the only other large concreted areas of the town, such as the shopping centres. If all the pools are lost, these areas will inevitably become used for these purposes. With all the above in mind, I urge the members of the council to take on board the heartfelt views of myself and the other 1,548 people who signed this petition and vote to save what you can of the town's paddling pools. Thank you all for giving me your time and listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deere. Now we've got 30 minutes to debate this item, okay? Councillor Ingley, you're going to start.
Well, thank you, Mr. Deere. Thank you for organising the petition, for bringing the petition here and for asking the question. You clearly have a great love for the paddling pools. That's obvious. And actually, so do I. I love what they represent. They represent healthy outdoor opportunities for children. They represent the community coming together. They are, as you say, free to use. Without doubt, they're community assets. This wasn't an easy decision. But they were a design of their time. They're concrete slabs on a clay subsurface. Clay is subject to subsidence, it's subject to heat. Those slabs are moving. Every year we have to spend quite a lot of money on caulking the gaps that develop between the moving sheets, and that's causing some issues. The filters that keep the water clean there are old. They need extensive renovation. Those are things that we could deal with, given the money. What we can't deal with is the depth of the water. Now, they're not that deep, but they're deep enough to require us to have paddling pool attendants there. And those paddling pool attendants need to be trained. So, when we look at a summer like the one we've just had, where we had 14 weeks of glorious summer, when the fields were turning brown, when the dogs were panting and children were itching to get into a water sports area to play, we couldn't open the paddling pools because we were still training the staff to open them for the summer holiday. 14 weeks of beautiful weather, 6 weeks of use. And then they're easily put out of action. This year alone, we had that short window of opportunity eaten into by puncture failure, by broken glass being left on the concrete, by somebody washing their dogs after dark in one of the paddling pools. And apart from the one in the town park where there's still a walk to the toilet, there are no toilet facilities. And little children playing in a paddling pool, some of them all day, that does make you question where they are toileting. You spoke fondly of memories. But health and safety won't allow the town park or any other of the paddling pools to stay as they were when you were using them. The depth of unsupervised water means that we are under pressure to build a fence around it, not the fences that are there now, but 8-foot high fences to entirely encircle the paddling pool with a locked door, such that the paddling pool attendant, when they're due to go home, would have to clear the area and lock the door behind them. And then out of season, we would have a drained paddling pool with a fence around it that's not designed for skateboarding activities. And if we then choose to leave it open and there's an accident, there is a possibility that we could be in some sort of legal trouble for not having locked that door. The replacements, the splash pools, do also offer healthy outdoor community coming together social activities, free to use. There is no depth of water. We don't need supervision. So we can open them at the flick of a switch. We could have got 14 weeks of use out of them this year, a much longer season. And if there is a problem, broken glass can be swept away. Dog's mess can be cleaned up. It really is a question of no downtime. And with the redesign, we can put toilets there, which I think everybody would welcome. However, Mr. Deal, we have listened, and we do take your petition seriously. The truth of the matter is, there are a limited number of contractors who can carry out this sort of installation work. We couldn't replace all 5 this year. We would look to do 2 this year of the peripheral ones, 2 next year by 2020. And when people have seen actually what the splash parks as we envisage them with their enhanced facilities have to offer, then in 2020, before a decision is taken about the town park, we would hold a public consultation. But let's be clear, that public consultation would be between replacing the town park paddling pool with a splash park and the reality of what keeping the paddling pool would be like. Because I'm afraid it wouldn't be like your memories. It would be a fenced-in facility. The paddling pool, the splash pool that we could put there, if the public so choose, we could try and retain as many of the iconic features that you spoke so warmly about. So my proposal, councillors, is that we renovate 2 paddling pools over the next 2 years, and we hold a public consultation on the final paddling pool when we've got the design in place.
Thank you, Councillor Needham. Any Councillor Johnson?
Thank you very much, Chair. And I also would like to thank Mr. Deere for bringing this petition tonight. It's very interesting to hear what he had to say, and also very interesting to hear what the leader of the council has had to say. I too have fond memories of the paddling pool, and I'm told I even had memories of the paddling pool before I was born, when my mother, in the extreme heat of the August of 1976, availed herself of a little bit of paddling, and I was heavily in her womb. we've all got memories of paddling pools, and to be fair, when the leader of the council brought this to the cabinet meeting, the previous cabinet meeting, I was quite vocal in my support. I wanted to see thriving areas for our children to play. I've got a 12-year-old daughter, and I know how much she has enjoyed splash parks over the years, as indeed the paddling pools. I didn't expect there to be the level of backlash and upset from members of the public that I've seen. And that, honestly, that surprised me. And not just about the town park paddling pool, but I know councillors in Old Harlow have been contacted about Norman Booth, councillors in Great Barnet, Summers and Kingsmore about Summers. And like I say, I've been a bit shocked by that, but I'm a Democrat, and I'm quite willing to listen to the public, and say maybe the leader got it wrong when he made his proposal. I still think I agree with him that something needs to be done to the present paddling pools, although I question how much health and safety legislation has changed in the last 10 years and whether we really do have to fence these things in. But I also know that, builders in this country are pretty clever people, and it shouldn't be beyond the wit of man to have something that has a basin in it that can be used by skateboarders and skaters and filled when the time comes and the attendants are available, and a part of the area that has jets of water and things that people can splash in. So maybe I missed a trick when it was debated in Cabinet. Maybe there are other options out there, and perhaps we should see, perhaps via the scrutiny committee, what has been designed in other councils, in other towns, across Europe, across America, and see what these other places have to offer. And certainly I agree with the leader of the council, there should be a public consultation. But not just about the subject of this debate, the town park. I think before any changes are made, we need a proper public consultation on all of them going forward, due to the high number of residents that have complained to councillors, signed this petition, and the amount of angst that it has caused across the town. Like I said at the start, I'm always a Democrat and happy to listen to the residents when they've got something to say. I think it's very rare these days that residents get involved in local politics. So when they do turn up to council meetings and when they do present petitions, we should probably listen.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, can I welcome the petition? Could you see that one? Oh, I've got me. First of all, can I say, give me another 10 seconds. Can I welcome the petition, Martin, and all the thousands of people who added to this. Can I also say I do welcome the comments and the reassurance that's been given by the leader, and I would also like to echo some of the comments made by the opposition leader over these particular issues. But this is about the town park, and it's about the town park paddling pool. As far as I believe, this should be about rejuvenation, not regeneration. The leader of the council says it was a design of the time. He's absolutely right. But everything was the design of the time because Harlow was all built around the same time. But the paddling pool is just as crucial and as critical to our town park as Pets Corner and the outdoor playing area. And we wouldn't touch those. In fact, we invested in those particular areas, and I think it is the right time to look at the paddling pool and reinvest and rejuvenate rather than regenerate. When I was the cabinet member for regeneration, we had the lottery funding, where we looked at the whole of the town park and looked at different areas of what we could invest in. And we made a decision then that there was nothing wrong with the paddling pool at that time. It hadn't shifted, it hadn't moved. There were problems, granted, in relation to the metal and the pumping and all those particular issues, which could be addressed and resolved as time would go by. But as far as I was aware at that time, there was nothing wrong with the fabric or the structure of the paddling pool. On the health and well-being, which is one of our critical criteria of this council, young people and their experience of water is critical. Where else can young people experience the pleasure of walking through water or playing through water that is free, accessible, fun and safe? Well, we can in the town park paddling pool. So I do believe we do have the ability to find a solution, very similar to what the leader of the opposition has said. We can look to other areas to see how we can make this happen. I also agree that I was not aware of the health and safety legislation that said we have to build 8-foot places and fences with locks on and other areas about that. And I think we do need to drill down and actually look at the evidence to say whether or not that is something that is realistic or something that is achievable. So in summary, I would like to support the 1,000 whatever it was and actually talk about the town paddling pool, and where we can, I would like to retain, rejuvenate and make it the icon that it is for the next generation. So I support and really welcome what the leader is saying about splash pools, but I also think we've got an opportunity to support what we think is the right thing, which is to retain, rejuvenate and enjoy our paddling pool in the town park. Thank you very much.
Councillor Harvey.
Thank you. I am the portfolio holder for this piece of work, and I want to say that I'm really excited by this petition, by this debate, by what it's stirred up. I think it's absolutely wonderful, and I'm excited about the public coming together with the council and working to an outcome which I think, I hope, will be more or less satisfactory to all parties. I do want to make one point, though my colleague Tony has spoken very, very eloquently, and I second everything he said. Indeed, I agree with everything that's been said. I do want to make one point. I live in Old Harlow. I take my 8-year-old son both on his scooter in the winter and to the splash park in the summer. I'm up there constantly. I'm a great fan. I'm Australian. To the paddling pool. You know, this is a whole new thing to me, the concept of a paddling pool. Quite a sort of odd thing, but now that I'm used to it, I absolutely love them. What I will say to you, though, having spoken at length to the officers who are responsible for advising us and providing us with the evidence on which we have made the decisions, what I will say to you is that when I heard about the health and safety risks to children with the filters as they currently are in the state, of the germs that can very, very quickly and easily spread through the system because it's not fit for purpose over the longer term. When I said to my many mothers and father friends who said to me, "Oh, I'm appalled, I can't believe the first thing you've done when you went into council was put your name to this appalling decision, it's outrageous." I said, I hear you entirely, but I need to tell you that there are members of the council who fear every summer that there is going to be some outbreak of some germ or some virus which could really be quite toxic to small children. The filters need significant investment that will cost a lot of money, and that was the thinking that informed the idea of the splash parks. I think where we've got to now with a kind of hybrid solution, which is what we're going to investigate, is a really good one. But I just really want to put on the record that one of the primary motivations for this initiative was health and safety, the risk to our children, and it would be remiss of me as the portfolio holder and this council not to be very, very cognizant of those risks as we move forward. Thank you.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Chair. It's nice to hear that there's a consensus across both parties that the paddling pools do actually have a special place in all our hearts, and we can all share memories of them. And I'm no different now. I remember going over there many a year after finishing school, and we used to play them all the time. I'm glad to hear Councillor Harvey agree that she seconds what Councillor Durkin said. So we can look forward to maybe looking a little bit deeper at this and not taking the paddling pools completely out of the equation, and possibly looking to invest in them. I would like to put to her, though, that how many children since their inception have actually fallen ill to these so-called viruses, and if the health and safety legislation exists that we have to erect 8-foot fences around them, why were they opened at all this year? So I do kind of question that logic. In terms of money and requiring a lot of investment, perhaps we should invest in them for the future. We hear this year that there's £2 million underspent. money shouldn't really be the barrier to investing in these things properly. So I welcome the fact that across both sides of this chamber that people are willing to look a little bit further at this, and I look forward to Councillor Harvey coming back to us, having looked at those a little bit further and seeing if we can debate this issue again and keep paddling pools open. Thank you, Chair.
Mike. Councillor Vaughan.
Thank you, Chair. I also love the paddling pools, although I never grew up here, so I've never used paddling pool. I actually use the beach because I come from Mauritius. But it's good for children to have water to play in, and also it helps parents to become friends and so on. I'm quite surprised with Councillor Perrin asking how many children have been affected. As a nurse, I'm always the preventative type. Why do we have to have children or anyone to be harmed before we act on anything? Why can't we start doing something so that not any harm doesn't happen to our children? I agree with Councillor Ingalls about the health and safety. It's very important to follow the law. Health and safety is not something to be there and to be just, yeah, we want it or not. It's actually the law. We've got to follow it. There is, if you want to see, in June 2017, it was printed about the health and safety review on pool and splash parks. So we need to look at all that because we can't afford to put our children at risk or anyone at risk. And I agree with Councillor Ingalls that we should do a consultation to see what the public wants for the pool, in the town park. But as for the other places, I personally haven't come across anyone saying splash pool is a bad idea, because everybody who's used a splash pool love it. I love it. I would love to be able to run in there, but unfortunately I'm too old for that. But you know, it is important we look at all the aspects. I understand we need to keep what Harlow has built, but we also need to make sure everything is safe for the future of our children. So hopefully we will do a consultation and we'll get the whole town to see what they want, but by giving them all the facts and figures. Thank you.
Councillor Mike Garnett.
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but I feel I ought to, because I have been approached by a number of people in Old Harlow about the proposed splash pools, and they're very upset. Their kids enjoyed being only 6 weeks, whatever it is, in the Northern Booth Centre. We have got the use of toilets in the Northern Booth Centre because we use the BATS facilities. So they've come out to help us out. So there's not a question of, you know, children going to the toilet in water. I can't quite understand this. There's a lot of people over there, a lot of members over there who feel that there should be a consultation, or the decision that the leader is making is perhaps not the same as they want. I don't know why we can't have a consultation. This is fundamental to the children and the parents of the town. Most things I would agree with consultation, but this one I think is, because there are so many people, as Mr. Deere has brought a petition, this 1,500 signatures, and that shows the strength, and that's probably only a very fraction of the people who use it. The town park is somewhere that's probably too far from people of Old Harlow to get to, so they use Northern Booth, and they love it. And they've got all the facilities they need. I don't take it wrong, I often are down there, but I'm there down the litter picking, and the parents come up to me, the kids having fun, splashing around in 18 inches of water. Health and safety. I've got two, my niece and nephew live in Cambridge, and I go up there quite a lot. They've got a large paddling pool, which is about 18 inches deep, and it's probably the size of this area. No safety men, no women or safety persons. Parents are in charge. So obviously, whatever bit of legislation you come up with, it's not coming up. It doesn't need to be done here unless, you know, if you prove me wrong, that's fine. Cambridge aren't doing it, so if Cambridge don't have to do it, I don't see why Hart suddenly comes up with it. After all these years, we've got to build fences. It's dangerous for children to be in paddling pools. If it's that dangerous, why are you opening them? Okay, so you've got all the children at risk this year, because this piece of work has got to be going on for a few months, not just now. So you should have closed the wall because it's dangerous to children. And I agree with what Councillor Perrin said. How many children have come ill from those pools?
Councillor
Well, thank you, Chair. It's great to be having this debate tonight and having a discussion about paddling pools. I think there's no one in this chamber that would disagree that they're a fundamental part of Harlow life, and they're kind of one of the great things that makes us unique about a new town. What I would say is I'm a councillor in Harlow, and we had, when the redevelopment was done a few years ago, our paddling pool changed to a splash park. And I've got to say it's been a great success overall. And actually, a lot of my residents really love it and really love the difference in some of the play it is too. We did have an issue last year because it does require a computer to run. I think we've got, and unfortunately that meant we were close to a significant part of last year, but I think we've solved some of those issues now. And actually now there's more technology in the UK, and that's why a lot of the companies that are doing it were in America and we had problems with that. But I think it is something we can look at, and I think we're all kind of agreement about looking at how we kind of compromise around this. I have some issues with some of the advice around health and safety and kind of fence stuff, but there is a legitimate concern around the pumps and some of the other things. It was in my portfolio for 5-6 years until earlier this year. It's something we've been looking at for a number of years each year about how long it takes to fix the paddling pools, how long they're out of season. There is genuinely issues with paddling pools. We've always known there's a big amount of work coming at some point that we need to pay a lot of money to get a lot of the paddling pools fixed. It's not been a secret, and we've been trying to fix it bit by bit as it comes on. But as you know, anything you keep patching, eventually you do need to do some work. And I think it's the opportunity, because the time is coming where we'll get into a crunch point where it will be, can we open more next year? Or not, maybe not next year, but the year after. And it's like, what do we do? Do we try and do something proactive to change it? And I think this could be a really positive. And I think maybe some kind of combination. I think we need to look at how we do this properly. But I think we don't need to fear. I think there's a fear of what splash parks are, and maybe taking away from adult stuff. I think there's multiple use behind board, I've got to say. And there is families, and there is adults and teenagers that also use the splash park. So I've got to say that just from my own personal experience in my local area, it's been a great success, and people have loved what we have in Potter Street. And I know that I sometimes, when I've got my niece and nephew, will take them over to other areas that have got some of these splash parks, which are great. But I do take a point, and I do know, I mean, we have looked at a number over time, but I think something does need to happen. I do agree with some of the stuff when you said that there is definitely an issue, fundamental issue with the pumps. That's been coming for years, and we know that, and we've been trying to look at how we do that, but you can only patch things for so long. So there will be a significant investment needed in the paddling pools in what way, shape or form. But I think we could work forward. I think we should listen to the public and what they're saying in this, but maybe not fear splash parks completely. I've just got to say it has been a huge success for us, and I don't think we should ignore that in touch with it.
Councillor Martin Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't planning to speak on this, but I'm actually quite enjoying this debate and where it's going. I just want to add a couple of things to what Councillor Toll's just said. Like Councillor Toll, I'm a local councillor in Harlow Commonwealth. The only ward in Harlow that already has a splash park. We went through the scorching June and July this year. The only place that children could go in this town is up to Potter Street, where we had the only splash park open because the paddling pools were open. So I do see the advantages of the splash parks. And I do also know that maybe there should be a choice, maybe having one paddling pool open, and I understand that, and I agree with that. What I want to talk about actually was about this consultation that everyone seems to be talking about. And I said this at the cabinet meeting when it was debated. I need to remind people we had consultation at Potter Street before, when we had the paddling pool and the old Carter's Mead site, and then there was a proposal with the GAG2 funding to move it all over to the Lockwood site. But the consultation, and I think this is a lesson we need to learn, the consultation was actually to the people that matter, children. Harlow Renaissance to this day went to Potter Street Junior and Infant School and consulted with the children what they wanted. They were given the choice. And we watched them, obviously I knew they had a paddling pool already. Some of them have gone out into Stevenage, is very famous for having splash parks. A lot of them have gone all the way to Stevenage to see. Overwhelmingly, the children were in a splash park. So I do agree with consultation, but I think we need to add in that if we're going to consult with people, let's go into schools and see what children actually want. Because it's the children, we're all going to be sitting there watching them, some of our kids, maybe some of the grandchildren, hopefully. But let's actually start consulting with the people that are going to use these facilities, like we did back in the days in Pot Street, like Harlow Nations and Harlow Council did, going back to the Gap 2 funding and start talking to children, because it's their enjoyment, it's their safety and it's their community. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Chair, I keep forgetting myself. I wish to stand a second time under the rules of the Act, move a motion as mentioned in Rule 13C to refer something to an appropriate body or individual. Given the high level of debate that we've had tonight already and the feeling around the chamber that we need to consult the public, I'm not sold on splash parks versus paddling pools yet. I still believe that splash parks could have an important part to play in this town. Conscious we've all said we want to listen to the public, I would like to move that we refer this item to the Scrutiny Committee for a full investigation into the benefits of splash parks versus paddling pools.
First point I was going to make is there was a second. We're now in a situation where that is the motion from members. The question is there an amendment or not? That's up to members. Otherwise, we have yeah. So the first thing to do is debate the motion before but I am conscious that we've only got 30 minutes for the whole thing.
We're not far off it. Okay.
Put it to the vote.
I have asked.
Right, you go for it.
Okay, thank you. Just before I probably close this debate, I'd just like to draw people's attention to the health and safety review into Harlow Town paddling pools and the splash park, dated June 2017. It says it's recommended that access to the pools is fully restricted where water remains in the pools, therefore not including the splash park. It should be subject to risk assessment. High fencing throughout should be installed. So, you know, the risks are there. They have been stated. However, I'm fully prepared to have a debate on this, so I'm going to accept Councillor Johnson's motion and suggest we take this to scrutiny.
Okay, so
Never mind, boss.
so councillors,
I suppose we go to the vote.
yeah, that's what I'm just going to do, but I'm going to say it again. Can we put the motion to council that the scrutiny committee look at the differences or the combinations of the splash pools and the paddling pools, and we come back from that committee back to full council with whatever they've come up with. That how we're going to go through it.
Agreed.
The vote, well, agreed?
Agreed.
Fine, excellent. I like it. Right, thank you. Item 6 questions from the public. Now we've got 2, 3. Okay. Mr. David Foreman. You've got 3 minutes.
Will Harlow District Council adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance working definition of anti-Semitism and its accompanying 11 examples of contemporary anti-Semitism in society without addition or deletion, especially given the fact that the United Kingdom government adopted it in December 2016, in order to build further confidence within the Jewish community in Harlow that anti-Semitism will not be tolerated. B, the desire to be free to criticise the actions of the Israeli government unencumbered by allegations of anti-Semitism delays your adoption of the IHRA definition in full. Will the Labour administration accept the explanation offered by the experts of the UK delegation to the IHRA working definition of anti-Semitism issued in a press release on 7th of August 2018? And I quote, any modified version of the IHRA definition that does not include all of its 11 examples is no longer the IHRA definition. Adding or removing language undermines the months of international diplomacy and academic rigour that enable this definition to exist. If one organisation or institution can amend the wording to suit its own need, then logically anyone else could do the same. I mean, once again, we work to a world where anti-Semitism goes unaddressed simply because different entities cannot agree on what it is.
Do you want to take Councillor Ingall's reply as read, or do you want him to read it out?
I'd like him to read it out, please.
Thank you, Mr. Foreman. Councillors. There have been some concerns amongst some people interested in international affairs that accepting the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, together with the 11 examples, would prevent them from ever criticising the actions of the Israeli state, without themselves being labelled as being anti-Semitic. Hence, they've been worried about accepting it without deletions or additions. However, proper reading of the text shows these fears are unfounded. The IHRA definition explicitly accepts that criticism of actions taken by the State of Israel can be made, as long as those criticisms are not used as a vehicle to deny the right of the State of Israel to exist, as long as those criticisms are of the actions of the state and not of the Jewish religion, as long as the State of Israel is not singled out for criticism, and as long as comparisons are not made with the Holocaust. Thus, I feel confident that I could, if I wanted, speak out about the treatment of Palestinians by the State of Israel, just as I could, if I wanted, speak out about the actions of the Saudi Arabian regime in Yemen, the appalling human tragedy unfolding for the Rohingya people in Myanmar, and countless other examples of governments acting in ways that are unacceptable. All very different issues, but all deeply troubling to people interested in international affairs. Given this freedom, as a definition allows, I'm happy to align myself fully with the IHRA definition, and via a motion that we will present to Council at the earliest opportunity, we will incorporate the definition into the relevant Council procedures. But I want to go further than that, David. Counting anti-Semitism and racism in all its forms is an issue I'm certain members from both sides of this chamber feel passionate about. Therefore, I propose that the portfolio holder for equality and diversity sets up a working group to include councillors from the opposition and leading figures in the Jewish community to see what other measures we can take to build confidence within the Jewish community. That this council, as a whole, condemns anti-Semitism, will not tolerate it, and will take active steps to ensure that the Jewish community feel welcome and included as a valuable and intrinsic part of this religiously and ethnically diverse town.
Mr. Foreman, have you got a supplement?
Yes, I have, Chair. Councillor Ingalls, would you agree with me on my following observations regarding contemporary anti-Semitism, that there exists legitimate anxieties for the European Jewish community with the rise of nationalist far-right parties and the actions of some countries, notably Hungary, which the European Parliament voted by more than 2/3 this month to discipline under Article 7, with a clear risk of a serious breach of the values on which the European Union is founded? Breaches such as the Hungarian Prime Ministerial election campaign this spring, which heavily featured what the British Board of Deputies of British Jews described as vivid anti-Semitism in the relentless campaign against Jewish philanthropist George Soros, and attempts by winner Viktor Orban to rehabilitate the memory of Hungary's World War II head of state and Nazi collaborator Miklos Horthy, responsible for the deportation of 437,000 Jews to Nazi gas chambers. And so Britain's Jews must be disappointed, to say the least, that the UK's Conservative Party whipped 18 of its 19 MEPs into supporting Hungary against the motion, an action which Conservative peer Lord Finkelstein described as a really distressing thing to have happened and shameful.
I think it's when you're specifically speaking about the action of Conservative MEPs in Europe, that's really a question for the Conservative Party.
Mr. John Wick.
Given that Harlow District Council had a budget surplus of £1.25 million for the last financial year, why has the council not revised the Harlow Council Tax Support Scheme so that jobless householders in Harlow do not bear the full burden of the central government cutting funding for this benefit?
Do you want to take the answer as read?
Yeah, I'll take the answer as read, yeah.
And have you got a supplementary?
I have indeed, yes. Nearly 1,000 jobless householders in Harlow receive court summonses every year for failure to pay their council tax, yet 36 local authorities continue to charge jobless householders zero. Why is it impossible for Harlow Council to lessen the council tax burden of the town's jobless householders?
Well, thank you, Mr. Wake. I am actually going to read out some of my questions because I think it addresses the supplementary. Look, the surplus that the council achieved in 2017-2018 was one-off in nature. The council would be committing to ongoing costs if we made a revision to the local council tax support scheme, such that a lower contribution was made by payments. However much I might like that to be the case, it's not council policy to use one-off resources to meet costs of ongoing commitments and wouldn't demonstrate good financial management to do so. I need to point this out as well. Although it's Harlow's duty to collect council tax from those in work and from the jobless, the component kept by Harlow is just under 16 pence in the pound. Most of the money goes to Essex County Council and to the Essex Police Fire and Crime Commission. They will not accept the reduction in the component that they take, even if we were to levy zero on jobless people. So for every pound Harlow reduces the council tax for the jobless, it would in fact cost this council £6.37.
Last question from the Republic angle, Mr. Holt.
At a full council meeting on 29th of March, a motion was moved that in view of the poor state of repairs of the highways of Harlow, that the Essex County Council portfolio of highways would meet with the Harlow County and district councillors, the public and other interested bodies to discuss. This meeting has not taken place. Was there ever any intention to hold this meeting?
Do you want the answer as read?
Yes, to say.
Have you got a supplementary?
Yes. Why was only certain members of the public invited to attend this meeting with Councillor Mansfield? Why wasn't this meeting reported taking place at last week's cabinet meeting? Well, I'm sorry, it's 2 questions. So I'll say, I'm doing exactly what Mr. Ford did. Why was only certain members of the public invited? B, why was this meeting reported at cabinet
Mr.
last week?
You know the rules.
Okay, so shall I address?
Oh yes.
Mr. Hull, thank you for your questions. Whilst I invited Councillor Bentley to come and meet with me, and I'm glad that he did come because it was a very positive meeting and we did get some good outcomes for the residents of Harlow. As we, just across the road here in North Brooks, the road has been repaired as a result of him coming on that tour with me of some of the worst pothole estates in Harlow. I'm not in a position to dictate to Councillor Bentley who he will meet and how long his meeting will be. He agreed to come here for a short period. I managed to persuade him, well, actually I didn't manage to persuade him, the residents of Waterhouse Moor wrote directly to him and they managed to persuade him to extend the meeting by half an hour to allow for that. I still hope that Councillor Bentley will come and address the councillors here. I still hope that Councillor Bentley may face the public, because there's certainly lots to face the public about. The state of our estate roads is shocking. I was lightly rigged by Councillor Hardware earlier on the year, saying, wasn't I embarrassed to have stood on a campaign on the side of Southern Way, saying fix Southern Way because it would be fixed by May, and now it's nearly October, and it's been delayed again. So, was there an intention? Yes. Did the meeting take place? Yes, not as I wanted it. Do I intend to keep the pressure up on Essex County Council and the Tories of County to actually put their hands in their pockets and make good the damage they've done to our infrastructure? Yes, I do.
Now we come on to questions from Council item 7. And we've got one from Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. Does the portfolio holder believe for 8 diversity believe the Council and all political parties making it up should recognise, sign up to and enforce the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism in full? I would like the answer read out, please, before you ask.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Please see the answer given by the leader if the Council in response of question 1 of the question from the public. I am actually a hate crime ambassador, and as you know, this council is a hate incident reporting centre, and we will continue to campaign to raise awareness of hate crime, such as anti-Semitism, and how to report such crimes. I hope that Councillor Shona Johnson will join me and become a hate crime ambassador and work with me to educate the community.
Do you have a comment?
I do actually, thank you, Chair. Firstly, thank you, Councillor Foreman. I would be honoured to become a hate crime ambassador, and I look forward to working with you to help do that. My supplementary is, the Leader of the Council has signalled support to a motion to adopt the IHRA definition. Would the portfolio holder be agreeable to a joint motion to show the level of support across the chamber on this issue?
Absolutely, I agree.
Okay. Now, Councillor Johnson, your second question.
Thank you. As we've just celebrated Yom Kippur, 18th and 19th of September, can the portfolio holder tell us what the Council is doing to combat anti-Semitism in Harlow?
And you take that as read?
No, I'd like you to read it out, please.
Thank you.
Sorry,
I want to read my answer. Again, please see the answer given by the leader if the Council will respond to question 1 of the question from the public. However, I would like to add that I have recently launched the Faith and Culture Forum, of which I'm the chair. I'm pleased to announce that Rabbi Irit Shiloh is the vice chair, and we will work together to promote inclusion in our town. As a Muslim and a black person, I have personally experienced racism and Islamophobia, and I'm not prepared to stand by and watch the Jewish community feel vulnerable and suffer. I have a long history of standing up to racism, fascism, anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. I will keep on doing so for anyone of any faith, belief, colour or gender. For years, I, along with other Labour councillors and Labour Party members, have attended the Holocaust Memorial Service at the synagogue, and I hope to see the Conservative councillors at the next service, and as this will show solidarity to the Jewish community on a cross-party basis.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Councillor Foreman. I'm going to ask you this though. Given your views on anti-Semitism, and I appreciate that you've also, like me, had racism put against you, have you personally called for Brett Hawksby to face disciplinary action for his comments?
I don't actually agree with what Mr. Hawksby's done. His language isn't one that I would actually use, and I actually find it distasteful. However, Labour Party is already dealing with him, and I can't comment anymore because that will, I don't want to cause any prejudice.
It's not council business.
Hang on. I know it's not council business, but it is important to address.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So it is
You can
being
shake your head,
addressed.
Duffin, but it still is.
Councillor Johnson.
Right, it is important, and I can guarantee you things will get done as it should, and as what they find, they will decide what to do.
I appreciate that answer, thank you.
Okay, we're now on to item 8, motions from councillors. We do not have any. We're now on to item 9, references to cabinet and committees. Item A of that, item 9, referral to cabinet, local development plan, submission to planning, etc., for examination under regulation 22 to follow. Do we have a proposal?
Yes, sir.
And do you want to give us speak now?
Well, I just would...
And a second, do we have a second?
Secondly, Chair.
I've already seconded.
Sorry.
Two seconds. I just would obviously reiterate that the Cabinet is recommending to the Council through this submission that we approve the local development plan for submission to the Secretary of State, that we agree the local development scheme and delegated authority for minor changes to be made. So I so move.
Because what I should have also said is we've got the supplementary agenda item 1 and 2 on that item. Right, debate. I presume, Councillor Engel, do you want to... Yeah. Right, hold it, debate. Okay, debate. Councillor Carter.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. In the covering report to this item in paragraph 26 under leisure, it says, and I quote, "The public art policy has also been challenged, but is not compliant with planning obligations and NPVM. Officers consider that Harlow Sculpture Town status will justify such a policy." On page 177 of tonight's agenda, you will find the policy which says inter alia. The purpose of this policy is to continue the legacy of Harlow as a town of public art and sculpture, and is expected that major new developments will contribute towards it. So all that's very reassuring. The 70-year-old policy still stands in the local plan. Right at the end of the company report, on paragraph 29, it also says, "The schedule of minor modifications, Appendix J, sets out which representations officers are proposing not to oppose." Now, I'll say, sorry, am I interrupting somebody? What I would care about is when these representations were made, there has been no formal consultation on the policies or the map. Portfolio holders can explain how this occurred. Anyway, moving to page 1338 on tonight's agenda, we actually come to Appendix J, Schedule of Minor Modifications. On page 1350, we find, quote, "First new para immediately before para 16.16, page 155. Representation from Demerck Estates. Changes to text in red. If providing public art in major development was not achievable, developers will be required to submit a viability appraisal to show that such provision would render the scheme unviable. And the reason for change is to ensure viability is considered. Just let that sink in for a moment. So, Madam Chair, as a result of a complaint from one organisation who has a direct financial interest in the issue, the Council is prepared to ditch a 70-year policy of including art in public spaces, despite indicating otherwise in the covering report. And we are all well aware of the wonderful figures developers come up with to prove unviability, and how much we've had to spend in legal fees to challenge them. Now, this particular policy only affects major developments. The cost of a piece of art or sculpture is not going to be material in the multi-million-pound scheme. If a greedy developer cannot partner with a loose change to improve the public realm, then they can go and build their houses somewhere else. Where was the consultation on this change of policy? What is the view of the Civic Society? What did Harlow Arts Council say about it? As I've just said, the cost of a piece of art is not going to be material in a major development. It's not as though anyone else has complained, either with this plan or in the past. You have to ask what power this one developer wields over a council. And why is this major change being sneaked through in a 1,000-page document without any publicity or consultation? Or is there a change of policy?
No.
Which is correct? The covering report to Cabinet or the report going to the planning inspectors?
Thank you, Chair. I just thought I'd comment on this viability piece. I would love for this report not to mention it. But the reason it's in there is because your government introduced the policy that made us have to put it in there. If we don't have it in there, we'll be in front of the inspector and the inspector will put it in. So clearly this is the fault of Conservative government and not ours. We would love to get rid of viability. It is a bane to my life as Chair of Planning. So yes, let's get rid of it. But I think you need to speak to your ministers.
Councillor Hardwood.
Hardwood? Thank you. As I said at Cabinet last week, the consultations to both the Regulation 18 and Regulation 19 stages of the local plan have been an abject failure for Harlow Council. I've been doing a bit of research and can find no other local authority with the appalling level of response that Harlow has managed to achieve. I was talking to a councillor in Decorum, your counterpart in Decorum, in fact, which is Hempstead, last Friday, the day after Cabinet. He was complaining that his council has had to employ extra people to go through the 12,500 responses to their Regulation 18 consultation, with St Albans next door complaining about getting just 2,500. He thought I was joking when I said Harlow had received just 72. When localism was introduced in 2011, the aim was for councils to involve local communities, allowing them a greater role in decision making, to have a greater say in what was built and where. This placed an obligation on councils to actively engage with their communities and encourage participation, especially the hard-to-reach groups. The obligations to engage have actually existed since 2004. 2004 Housing Act. But only a few councils seem to pay any attention to this Labour legislation. But that obligation is now a real one, although the Labour-run Harlow Council decided at both consultations to ignore this and to do the barest minimum, depriving the residents of Harlow of the opportunity to truly be involved with their local plan. What compounds this is that the Labour Council knew this was the issue, having only received 126 responses at the previous consultation. They seemed oblivious to the issue. They obviously do not value the opinions of their residents. Even with the poor response from the first consultation, accepted by the then leader of Labour as not being good enough, they did nothing extra this time, which is why you've only got 72 responses. No one knew about the consultation or understood what was required. What makes this worse is the portfolio holder had the benefit of the experience of Epping Forest next door. They made a real effort to engage their residents and achieved 3,300 in their first consultation and 1,000 in their last consultation. Accepting that this is an issue, the council has already sought legal advice from a barrister, which doesn't come cheap. Instead of wasting money on barristers and vast sums on vanity PR projects which achieve nothing, perhaps the council should have spent some money on PR for the local plan and given the residents of Harlow a proper opportunity to participate in their local plan instead of treating them with contempt by doing the barest minimum. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Ingle, are you going to come in on this stage? Councillor Danvers.
Well, I'm not really going to say much, but I will actually say to Councillor Hardware, when the consultation of Gilden Way was so loud and clear to Essex County Council, in regards to the changes to the road and the junction. It was completely ignored by the authority that he represents now. And in fact, 4 of the Tory group actually represent on Essex Town Council. When the Gilden Way development was discussed by public inquiry, the whole of the town, and I give credit to the Tory group, the whole of the town came together to oppose that. And who did we have but the person who was behind the localism bill, Pickles, just down the road in Brentwood, signing, saying, I'm wearing my judicial hat and I'm actually agreeing to this, when in fact the whole of the town actually opposed that. So when you actually start talking about consultation, what you also need to know, Chairperson, is that people need to start listening to it.
I'll be very brief, Chair. Councillor Harbour is absolutely right. We did take some legal advice, and the legal advice said that the barrister could see no reason at all why we shouldn't proceed with the move to submit. Thank you.
Is that the debate? Right. Oh, yeah. So, Councillor Purton, can you now
Yes, sure.
sum up?
Well, as far as the consultation is concerned, Councillor Hardware seems to feel that the number of objections you get is a measure of the success of a consultation. I think that to compare us with Epping is quite honestly is ridiculous. First of all, actually, Epping are stuck in the High Court at the moment before they can proceed. So that's not, they haven't had everything their own way about. But the size of Epping, this forest, district council area, is something like 15 times the size of Harlow. The number of units that they were consulting on, the number of areas they were consulting on, all the way from the boundaries of London up to Shearing. It's totally ridiculous comparison. We went out to consultation. I would say the number of the actual responses that we've had actually cover all the main points. It's not as if there's something, that we're still waiting for somebody to realise. Everybody has understood the plan, and those that wanted to respond have responded. Receiving more and more and more objections is not success. As far as the viability is concerned, and the question of public art, we haven't changed our policy. But as Councillor Waits already said, if we have to make technical arrangements or technical amendments to what we have in our local plan in order to comply with the inspector. If we didn't put it in, the inspector would put it in, as Councillor Waits already said. This whole question of viability, we should understand that years ago we used to get public art because, like all the other Section 106 requirements, where developers were required to provide a public benefit for the benefit they got from planning permission, was what came out of the deal first. Then the developers decided whether they wanted to proceed with their costs and their cost of build, the cost of land and everything else. The government has changed that completely around. Because now, the viability, actually, they work out all their costs, and because they've got very clever people, they pay them millions of pounds to prove that they can't actually afford any public good at all. So, yes, we understand the point that's being made, and as far as I'm concerned, public art, like infrastructure, like schools, like health facilities, are all essential public benefits that we are entitled to when developers get planning permission. And we will insist. In fact, we had a discussion in this very room last night with our colleagues from East Herts, Epping, with people from the government, and we've committed ourselves to having a strategic seal, which is a infrastructure levy, which we're going to impose on developers in the Garden Town. So we're quite well aware of what we need to do. The problems we have coming from the government, not from us. So yes, we are aware of public art. We're famous in this town for public art, and we'll continue to demand public art. Don't let's squabble over these technicalities.
Right, okay. We're coming to the vote on this, that it goes to the Planning Inspectorate for examination under Regulation 22.
Point of order, Madam Chair, I stand call for a name vote by members through to stand with me.
Right, that's fine, I'd have a name vote.
Thank you, members. I'm going to call through the name roll call, and I would ask you to either indicate for, against, or abstention. Thank you. Councillor Simon Carter.
Against.
Councillor Nick Churchill.
Against.
Councillor Jean Clark. For. Councillor Mike Danvers.
For.
Councillor Bob Davis.
For.
Councillor Tony Durkin.
For.
Councillor Wade Foreman. For. Councillor Mike Garnett.
Against.
Councillor Tony Hall.
Against.
Councillor Michael Hardware.
Against.
Councillor Eugene Harvey. For. Councillor Maggie Holcomb. For. Councillor Mark Ingle.
For.
Councillor Andrew Johnson.
Against.
Councillor Eddie Johnson.
Against.
Councillor Shona Johnson.
Against.
Councillor Sue Liddings.
Against.
Councillor Stephen Mullard.
For.
Councillor Russell Perry.
Against.
Councillor Danny Purton.
For.
Councillor Lainey Shears. For. Councillor Clyde Suter. Councillor Edna Stevens. For. Councillor Emma Toll. For. Councillor Chris Vince.
For.
Councillor Phil Waite.
For.
And finally, Councillor Mark Wilkinson.
For.
Also, I do my maths, excuse me.
So the numbers are 4, 16, against 10 and 1. So that's carried. Now we're going on to B and C. Okay, so are we going to vote on B?
Agreed.
Okay, that's fine. Do you need to come to that on that? We can just do that. Item C. Moved.
Agreed.
We're going to remove and second, yeah? Right, okay.
Laney second.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay. Now we come on to item 10, reports from officers are unknown. Item 11, minutes of Cabinet Committee meetings to note, but we've still got DNAs that are coming on supplementary stuff. Okay. Matters of urgent business, none. Now, I have got soft drinks, tea and coffee in the church room.